I'm Hannah, 32, and I thought I'd finally earned my place at the family table. I'd spent weeks planning this dinner at my house in Philadelphia, hoping to bring everyone together. I'd cooked a roast, poured my heart into it, even bought a fancy dessert to share. But the moment we sat down, my dad leaned back in his chair, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Still living off us, huh?" he said loud enough for everyone to hear. The room went quiet for a split second, then my mom laughed, a sharp, cutting sound that hit me like a slap. My sister and her husband smirked, their eyes flicking to each other like they were in on some private joke. Even my little niece sitting at the end of the table looked confused, her fork frozen midair. My roast sat untouched, the dessert ignored. I felt my face burn, the weight of their laughter pressing into me. They thought I was a joke, like I was still the kid who needed their help, not the woman who'd built her own life. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just pushed my chair back, the scrape against the floor louder than their chuckles. I grabbed my coat and walked out, their voices fading behind me. But that night something snapped. I wasn't going to let that slide. What could I do to make them see I wasn't the one leaning on them? Before we go on, let me know what time it is and what city you're watching from. I read every comment, and it truly means a lot to see how far my story reaches. Don't blink. You won't believe what happened next. I've always prided myself on standing on my own 2 feet. I'm a graphic designer in Philadelphia running my own freelance business. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills, good ones too. I've got a condo in Center City, a sleek 2-bedroom I bought 3 years ago with my own savings. It's worth a lot, and renting it out at market price could easily pull in $2,800 a month. But I don't rent it to strangers. I let my family stay there. My dad, my mom, my sister, her husband, and their 6-year-old daughter for just $600 a month. I thought I was doing them a favor, keeping the family close, helping them out. Turns out that was my first mistake. My family's always had a way of making me feel like I'm less than them. Growing up, my sister was the golden child. She could do no wrong, straight A's cheerleader, the one who got all the attention at every family gathering. I was the quiet one, sketching in my room, never quite measuring up in their eyes. Even now, with my business thriving and a condo in my name, they act like I'm still the kid who needs their guidance. My sister Nicole works part-time at a boutique, barely scraping by. Her husband Brandon drives for a delivery service, always complaining about his hours. They live in my condo with my parents, who retired early and don't have much saved. I figured letting them stay for $600 a month was my way of giving back, especially for my niece Chloe, who I'd do anything for. That condo's prime real estate, but I never pushed them to pay more. Even when my accountant warned me I was losing money. Last month, I went all out for a family gift. I designed custom prints for everyone, framed artwork personalized with their names and favorite colors. I spent hours on them, thinking it'd be a nice gesture, something to show I care. I dropped them off at the condo, excited to see their reactions. My mom glanced at hers, muttered a quick "thanks," and set it aside. My dad didn't even open his. Nicole said she'd hang hers in Chloe's room, but I later saw it stuffed in a closet, still wrapped. Brandon just nodded like it was no big deal. Chloe was the only one who seemed thrilled, hugging me and saying she'd put hers above her bed. That moment with her was the only thing that kept me from losing it right there. But it wasn't just the gift. It's the way they treat me, like I owe them something. Nicole's always dropping hints about how tough things are, how they need a break. My dad chimes in saying I should be grateful for all they've done for me, like paying for my art classes back in high school. My mom stays quiet most of the time, but when she does speak, it's to praise Nicole, her job, her parenting, her everything. Meanwhile, I'm busting my tail working late nights to keep my clients happy, and they act like I'm just coasting through life. I started wondering if they even saw me as an equal, or if I was just the family ATM. It's not like I haven't tried to talk to them. A few weeks ago, I brought up the condo over coffee with Nicole. I mentioned the market rate just to gauge her reaction, maybe nudge her to appreciate what I was doing. She laughed it off, said I was lucky to have family willing to stay in my fancy place. Brandon overheard and made a snide comment about how I'd never survive without their support. Support, I'm the one footing the bill for their life in Center City. I let it slide, told myself it wasn't worth the fight. But deep down, I knew something was off. They weren't grateful, they were entitled. I started paying closer attention. Little things added up. Nicole would post about her perfect life online, showing off the condo like it was hers. She'd tag designer brands, acting like she could afford them when I knew she was barely paying her share of the rent. My dad would call to ask for a little extra for repairs, but I'd find out later the condo was fine, they just wanted cash. My mom never backed me up, always siding with Nicole like I was the one asking for too much. It was like they thought I owed them that condo, that I was supposed to keep handing over my hard-earned money because we're family. I confided in my boyfriend Tyler about it one night. He's 33, a marketing consultant who's always had my back. We've been together 2 years and he's seen how my family treats me. He didn't sugarcoat it. Hannah, he said, they're taking advantage of you. You're not their landlord, you're their bank. His words hit hard. I'd been telling myself I was helping out, keeping the peace, but Tyler was right. I was letting them walk all over me. That realization burned, but it also lit a fire. I wasn't sure what I'd do yet, but I knew I couldn't keep playing their game. Every time I drove by that condo, I'd feel this knot in my stomach. It wasn't just about the money, it was about respect. I'd worked for everything I had, and they acted like it was theirs to take. I started thinking about what it'd be like to take it all back, to show them I wasn't the pushover they thought. A few days after I started questioning my family's entitlement, I got a call from Tara, a mutual friend who works with Nicole at the boutique. We weren't close, but she'd always been friendly enough. "Hannah, you need to hear this," she said, her voice tense. She'd accidentally seen a group chat on Nicole's phone when they were closing up the shop. Nicole had sent a message to a few friends bragging about how she was playing me. "Hannah's such a pushover," the message read. "We're living in her Center City condo for just $600 a month, a steal for a place worth almost $3,000. She's too naive to charge us more. We've got this in the bag." Tara forwarded me a screenshot and I felt my stomach drop. The words stared back at me, cold and smug. My own sister laughing at how she was taking advantage of me. Tara apologized, saying she didn't mean to stir drama, but she thought I deserved to know. I thanked her, my voice steady, but inside, I was reeling. Naive, a pushover. I'd been giving them a deal that saved them thousands every year, thinking I was helping family. Nicole's message wasn't just a betrayal, it was a slap in the face. She didn't see me as her sister. She saw me as a mark. I sat on my couch staring at the screenshot, my anger building with every reread. My dad's lectures about gratitude, my mom's silence, Brandon's snide comments, they all clicked into place. They weren't struggling family members, they were users, and I'd been blind to it. I pulled up my condo's financials that night. Market rent in Center City was $2,800 a month, over 4 times what they were paying. I'd been covering taxes, maintenance, even some utilities, all because I thought it was the right thing to do. But Nicole's words, "We've got this in the bag," changed everything. I wasn't their safety net, I was their cash cow. I decided right then, no more. They'd pay what the condo was worth, or they'd find somewhere else. I wasn't going to let them play me anymore. The next evening, I called them to the condo for a meeting. Nicole, Brandon. My dad and my mom sat on the couch looking annoyed, like I was wasting their time. Chloe was at a friend's house, which was probably for the best. I didn't beat around the bush. "The rent's going up," I said, my voice firm. "Starting next month, it's $2,800. That's what the market demands. Pay it or you're out in 30 days. Nicole's eyes widened, her mouth opening like she couldn't believe it. Brandon leaned forward, his voice sharp. "You're serious? We're family, Hannah." My dad's face turned red, his jaw tight. "This is how you repay us, after all we've done." My mom just looked down, her hands folded, not saying a word. I didn't back down. I've been carrying you for years, I said. I'm done subsidizing your life. Nicole's voice went high, almost panicked. We can't pay that. You know we can't. I crossed my arms. Then you'll need to find a new place. I'm not your charity anymore. Brandon muttered something, his eyes narrowing, but I didn't catch it. My dad stood up, pointing at me. You're ungrateful, you know that. We gave you everything? I met his gaze, my pulse racing but my resolve solid. You gave me lessons in hard work. Now I'm using them. The texts started flooding in that night. Nicole sent a novel-length message accusing me of tearing the family apart and choosing money over love. Brandon called me selfish, saying I'd pay for this. My mom sent one line, think about your niece. That one hit hard, but I saw it for what it was, a guilt trip. Chloe wasn't the issue. Her parents were. I didn't reply. I was done justifying myself. But 2 days later, my dad called, his voice low and furious. Why was the rent cut off? He barked like he thought I'd cave. I took a deep breath, my tone ice cold. I'm done living off you, I said, throwing his words from that dinner back at him. Pay the new rate or start packing. He didn't see that coming. There was a long silence. Then he exploded. You can't do this. We're your family. You owe us. I let him yell, his words bouncing off me. I'd heard it all before, how I owed them for my childhood, my art classes, my existence. But this time, it didn't shake me. I'd seen the truth in that screenshot, and it cut deeper than their guilt trips. 30 days, I said calmly. Pay or leave. I hung up my hand, steady now. They thought they could keep manipulating me, but they were wrong. I saved Tara's screenshot and emailed it to myself along with the lease agreement. If they wanted a fight, I'd be ready. Nicole's message had lit a fire I couldn't put out. I wasn't just angry, I was done. They'd taken my generosity, my trust, and twisted it into something ugly. I knew they'd push back, maybe even harder than before, but I wasn't the pushover they thought. I spent the next morning reviewing my financials again, making sure every detail was in place. If they didn't pay, I'd move forward with the eviction process. The line was drawn, and I was holding it firm. The dust hadn't even settled from my showdown with my dad when things took a nastier turn. The next morning, my phone lit up with notifications. Nicole had posted on Instagram a photo of my condo's kitchen, my kitchen, with a caption that hit like a gut punch. My sister's turned into a greedy landlord, she wrote, raising our rent to $2,800 just to squeeze us dry. So ungrateful. The post was public, gaining traction with likes from her friends and cousins I barely knew. Comments piled up. That's heartless family. Doesn't do that. What a money grubber. I sat on my couch, scrolling through, my chest tightening. Nicole had twisted the story, hiding how I'd let them live in my Center City condo for only $600 a month for years, saving them thousands. I didn't take the bait and comment. I knew arguing online would only fuel her narrative. Instead, I saved screenshots of the post and every comment, storing them in a folder for safekeeping. That evening, my phone buzzed with a text from a blocked number. Push this further and your condo won't stay so perfect, it said. My pulse spiked. The message didn't name the sender, but I immediately thought of Brandon. His temper had always been short, and the way he'd sneered during our last meeting screamed bad news. I stared at the text, my anger mixing with unease. This wasn't just a tantrum, they were trying to bully me. I called my boyfriend Tyler, who was wrapping up a meeting downtown. I read him the text, my voice steady despite the knot in my stomach. They're lashing out because you stood up to them, he said, his tone calm but serious. Don't let them rattle you, Hannah. You're doing what's fair. We talked for a while, and he urged me to keep records of everything, the post, the text, even our lease agreement. They're playing dirty, he said. You need to stay one step ahead. Tyler's support was my anchor. He'd seen my family's guilt trips firsthand, how they'd make me feel like I owed them everything. He offered to come over the next evening to help me plan my next move, and I felt stronger knowing he was with me. The following day, I went to the condo to address a maintenance issue. They'd reported a flickering light in the hallway. I let myself in expecting to find someone home, but the place was quiet. My dad was likely at his part-time job, my mom was probably shopping, and Nicole and Brandon were out. Chloe was at school, leaving the condo empty. I replaced the light bulb in minutes, but as I passed through the living room, something stopped me cold. My cream-colored sofa had a bold, jagged scribble across one arm drawn in black permanent marker. My heart sank. This wasn't a mistake. Someone had done this on purpose, a cheap shot to hit back at me. My mind went to Brandon, picturing him fuming, marker in hand. Nicole might have been behind the post, but this felt like his kind of petty revenge. I snapped photos of the damage, my hands shaking with fury. That sofa was part of the condo's furnishings worth $700. I sent the pictures to Tyler, who texted back, "That's low. You've got to act on this." I called a cleaning service right away, getting a quote of $200 to try removing the ink, with no promise it'd work. Standing there staring at the ruined sofa, I felt a fire ignite. They thought they could trash my property and scare me into backing off. They had no idea who they were dealing with. I wasn't just fighting for my condo. I was fighting for the years I'd let them walk over me. That afternoon, I met with my lawyer, the same one who'd helped me buy the condo. I laid out everything: Nicole's Instagram post, the threatening text, and the photos of the sofa. "This is deliberate," he said, reviewing the evidence. "The text could be seen as a threat, and the damage is clear. Bad faith. You've got a solid case for eviction if they don't pay the new rent." He cautioned that family disputes could get messy, but I was resolute. "They crossed a line," I said. "I'm not letting this slide." He started drafting a formal eviction notice to be sent if they missed the $2,800 payment. It felt like loading a weapon I hoped I wouldn't have to fire. When I got home, my phone was still buzzing. My mom had left a voicemail I didn't play. A cousin texted urging me to fix things with Nicole, as if I was the problem. I ignored them. They'd bought her story without asking for mine. That night, Tyler came over and we went through the evidence together. He looked at the sofa photos, shaking his head. "They're desperate," he said. "But you're holding your ground." His belief in me was everything. I wasn't just defending my property, I was reclaiming my dignity. The next morning, I returned to the condo to check for other damage. I walked through each room, my eyes scanning for anything out of place. In Chloe's room, I found a small crayon drawing on her desk, a stick figure family under a rainbow. It tugged at my heart, reminding me she was caught in this mess. I folded it carefully and slipped it into my bag. Then I locked the condo and called my lawyer to finalize the eviction notice. They had 30 days to pay or get out, and I was ready to follow through. The deadline came faster than I expected. On day 29, I got a curt email from Nicole saying they couldn't afford the new rent and were moving out. No apology, no acknowledgement of the years I'd subsidized them, just a cold confirmation they'd be gone by the end of the week. I felt a mix of relief and dread. Relief that I was finally taking control, dread for what they might leave behind. I drove to the condo on the morning they were supposed to move out. Tyler offered to come, but I told him I needed to handle this alone. The building's doorman buzzed me in his face, neutral but his eyes curious. When I unlocked the door, the condo was silent, the air heavy with the absence of my family. My dad, my mom, Nicole, Brandon, and Chloe were gone. The furniture I'd provided was still there, but the place felt stripped, like they'd taken more than just their belongings. I walked through the living room, bracing myself for what I might find. The sofa, still marked with that ugly black scribble, sat as a reminder of their spite. But it was in the hallway that I stopped dead. The full-length mirror I'd installed near the front door was shattered, a spiderweb of cracks radiating from the center. A single word was scratched into the glass: greedy. My breath caught. This wasn't an accident, it was a final jab, probably from Brandon, though I couldn't prove it. I stood there staring at the broken mirror, my anger flaring but quickly giving way to resolve. They thought this would break me, make me feel guilty. It didn't. It only proved I'd made the right call. I took photos of the damage, adding them to the folder with Nicole's post, the threatening text, and the sofa pictures. My lawyer had warned me they might try something like this, and he'd been right. I called him from the condo, my voice calm but firm. "They're out," I said. But they left a mess. "What's next?" He told me to document everything and file a claim for damages if I wanted to pursue it. I wasn't sure yet, but I knew I wasn't letting this slide. Cleaning up their mess took the rest of the day. I swept up the glass from the mirror, careful not to cut myself, and scheduled a repair service to replace it. The quote was $300, another expense they'd forced on me. The sofa was beyond saving, so I arranged for a hauler to pick it up. As I worked, I found small traces of Chloe, a forgotten hair tie, a glittery sticker on the fridge. Each one stung, but I reminded myself she wasn't the problem. My niece was just a kid caught in her parents' chaos. I kept her crayon drawing from the desk, tucking it into my bag with a pang of guilt. I wanted to reach out to her, but not now, not while Nicole and Brandon were still twisting the narrative. By the next morning, I was ready to move forward. I contacted a real estate agent I'd worked with when I bought the condo. I told her I wanted to rent it out at market rate, $2,800 a month. She didn't hesitate. "That's a fair price for Center City," she said. "We'll have tenants lined up in no time." She was right. Within 2 days, she'd posted a listing online and inquiries started pouring in. I spent the weekend reviewing applications, determined to find someone who'd respect the place. One couple stood out, a young doctor and her husband, both professionals with solid references. They loved the condo's location and were happy to pay the full rent. I met them for a walkthrough, and their excitement was a stark contrast to my family's entitlement. It felt like a fresh start. The paperwork took a few days, but by the end of the week, I'd signed a lease with the new tenants. They'd move in the following month, paying $2,800 on the first of every month. Standing in my apartment, I looked at the empty condo, now cleaned and prepped for its new occupants. The broken mirror was gone, replaced with a new one that gleamed under the hallway light. The sofa was hauled away, and I'd ordered a replacement, though I'd let the tenants choose their own if they wanted. For the first time in years, the condo felt like it was mine again, not a burden I was carrying for my family. I called Tyler that night to tell him the news. "You did it," he said, his voice warm with pride. "You took back what's yours." We talked about the future, our future, and how this was just one step toward building something new. He'd been my rock through all of this, and I knew he'd be there for what came next. I hung up feeling lighter than I had in months. The weight of my family's expectations was gone, replaced by a quiet confidence. Before I left the condo, I walked through one last time, checking every corner. In the kitchen, I found a small note tucked under a magnet on the fridge. It was in Chloe's handwriting, wobbly but clear. "I'm sorry, Aunt Hannah." My throat tightened. I folded the note and put it with her drawing. I didn't know how I'd navigate things with her, but I'd figure it out later. For now, I locked the door behind me and headed to my lawyer's office to drop off the damage photos. With the condo leased to new tenants, I felt like I could finally breathe again. The chaos my family left behind, the broken mirror, the scribbled sofa, the accusations, was fading into the background. A few weeks later, I heard through a mutual cousin that my dad, my mom, Nicole, and Brandon had moved in with my aunt in a cramped row house on the edge of Philly. The cousin didn't sugarcoat it. They were struggling. My dad's part-time maintenance work barely covered their bills, my mom wasn't working, and Nicole's boutique job wasn't enough to support her, and Brandon, let alone Chloe. They'd gone from my spacious Center City condo to sharing a single bathroom with relatives. Part of me felt a twinge of pity, but it passed quickly. They'd made their choices, and I wasn't responsible for fixing them. One quiet morning, I checked my mailbox and found an envelope with no return address. Inside was a letter in Chloe's wobbly handwriting, decorated with crayon hearts. "Dear Aunt Hannah," it read. "Thank you for letting us live in your house. I miss you. Love, Chloe." A small photo was tucked inside, showing her smiling at a park holding a stuffed bear. My heart ached. Chloe was only 6 too young to understand the mess her parents had created. I sat at my kitchen table rereading her words and felt a lump in my throat. I wanted to write back to tell her I missed her too, but I knew contacting her now would pull me back into their drama. Instead, I placed the letter and photo next to her crayon drawing from the condo, promising myself I'd find a way to stay in her life without letting Nicole or Brandon drag me down. The next few months were a whirlwind. Tyler and I threw ourselves into planning our wedding set for a crisp fall day at a small venue in Fairmount Park. We kept it simple, no lavish ballroom, just close friends and a few colleagues who'd become like family. I hadn't heard from my dad, my mom, or Nicole since they moved out, and I didn't invite them. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was necessary. Their actions, Nicole's public attacks, Brandon's threats, my dad's demands had shown me they didn't value me. Tyler supported me completely, never pushing me to reconcile. "You're building your own life now," he said one night as we finalized the guest list. They had their chance. His words settled something in me, a quiet certainty that I was doing the right thing. The wedding day arrived with a clear sky and a cool breeze. I walked down the aisle in a simple white dress, my hand in Tyler's, my heart steady. My best friend Sarah stood as my maid of honor, beaming as she adjusted my veil. The ceremony was short, but heartfelt, with vows we'd written ourselves. "Hannah, you're my home." Tyler said, his voice cracking just enough to make me tear up. I promised to stand by him, to build a life rooted in trust and respect. As we exchanged rings, I felt a weight lift, not just from the past year, but from years of carrying my family's expectations. The reception was a blur of laughter, music, and dancing under string lights. Sarah gave a toast, joking about my knack for sketching through stress, and our friends cheered. For the first time in a long time, I felt surrounded by people who saw me for me. After the wedding, Tyler and I took a weekend honeymoon in the Poconos, just the two of us in a quiet cabin. We talked about everything, our plans, our dreams, the life we wanted. I told him about Chloe's letter, and he suggested we could reach out to her when things settled, maybe through her school, to avoid her parents. It was a small spark of hope, a way to keep her in my life without reopening old wounds. Back in Philly, I checked on the condo. The new tenants, the doctor and her husband, were settling in, paying $2,800 each month without complaint. They'd even sent me a thank you note for the new mirror, saying it brightened the hallway. It was a small thing, but it felt like proof I'd made the right choice. Cutting off my family wasn't something I'd planned, but it was what I needed. My dad's lectures, my mom's silence, Nicole's entitlement, Brandon's vindictiveness, they'd pushed me to a breaking point. Letting them go wasn't about anger, it was about choosing myself. I'd spent years trying to please them, thinking that's what family did. But family isn't about taking advantage or tearing each other down. It's about respect, about showing up for each other. Tyler, Sarah, even Chloe, in her own way, they were my family, now the ones who valued me. I framed Chloe's letter and hung it in my office, a reminder of what mattered. As I sat at my desk, sketching a new design for a client, I glanced at it and smiled. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I'd drawn a line, and I wasn't crossing it again. That night, Tyler and I cooked dinner together, laughing over a burnt attempt at lasagna. It was messy, imperfect, and exactly what I wanted: a life built with people who lifted me up.